This week on the video version of the Business of Tech, the long holiday weekend brings warnings of profitable ransomware. Apple says it's okay to talk about wages at work. A bot poses as a person and why we care. Insurance coverage halves, premiums double, say insurers. And the opportunity in hard problems. All this and more. Hit those like and subscribe buttons, and here are this week's stories. Apple on Friday issued an internal memo reminding employees that they may discuss wages, hours, and working conditions. In a post on an internal site, Apple said its policies do not preclude employees from speaking freely about working conditions, according to a copy of the message viewed by Reuters. We encourage any employee with concerns to raise them in the way they feel most comfortable, internally or externally, the post states. The company also intends to return to the office on February 1st with a hybrid work pilot, under which employees will work out of the office for 1 or 2 days each week. From March, those employees will be at work Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and from home on Wednesday and Friday. Several teams at Apple will not be part of the pilot due to their work requiring a greater need to work in person. That from the information. Why do we care? Feels important to remind everyone that Apple is simply reminding everyone about the law. Employers can't stop this kind of discussion. This isn't them being magnanimous, it's them following the law, particularly at a time when they have some internal strife with employees. That's why we care. If you're managing people or a business owner, these are rules and laws you should know. As for their return to the office, we'll see. I've heard this one before. And while work issues are top of mind, some reporting from Protocol. Before the coronavirus pandemic, nearly 1/4 of all Americans said they find meaning and purpose in their lives because of their work and jobs. Now that number has declined by more than 9% in a new Pew Research study, affirming anecdotal stories about the American population's increasing disinterest in participating in the labor market. Higher income and college-educated people were the most likely to find meaning in work before the pandemic. The fall-off in valuing careers can be seen within those specific groups as well. While Americans with higher incomes and those with a college degree remain the most likely to bring up their jobs, both groups have become less likely to do so, with a decline from 37% to 27% among those in the upper income tier, and a decline from 39% to 26% among the college-educated, the researchers wrote in the report. Also taking a blow due to the pandemic, business travel. 39% of business travelers, those who used to travel for work at least 3 times a year pre-pandemic, say they'll never do it again, according to a new survey from Morning Consult. Finally, Robin's return to office report for October shows office capacity at 25%, the highest since the pandemic started, and foot traffic in American workplaces jumped 19% in October. Conference rooms were busier as well, with a 6% increase in bookings. The return rate has slowed slightly since September, which was 26% in the US, and Robin predicts a drop in foot traffic in November and December in the US due to the upcoming holidays. Why do we care? The changes to business travel and stats around returning to the office feel tactical, data points on the journey. Let's focus instead on the attitude shift. Americans not as focused on work is a pretty important headline. Too often, business conversations are around what the business wants or strictly within the business context. If you're a business leader and not factoring in your employees' desires outside the office, you're missing a significant portion of the story. Few people live to work, and much more than ever before. If you're having hiring or retention problems, or want to avoid them, make sure that's part of your thinking. Let's note a specific story from Reuters. Insurers have halved the amount of cyber cover they provide to customers after the pandemic, and home working drove a surge in ransomware attacks that left them smarting from hefty payouts. Limits have halved, where people were offering £10 million, or about $13.5 million. Nearly everyone is reduced in half. Insurance broker Marsh said that premium rates have almost doubled in the United States and jumped by 73% in Britain due to the frequency and severity of ransomware attacks. RPS said rates for some policies have risen as much as 300%. Insurers note that some attackers even check to see if potential victims have insurance, making them a more appealing target. Why do we care? Rates are going up, coverage is going down, and having coverage makes you a target. First thing first, make sure customers and yourself aren't actively disclosing your coverage. Security by obscurity isn't the only answer, but no reason to make the attacker's job easier. Is this in your 2022 planning? Your and your customers' budgets had better reflect this, if you can even get coverage. CISA and the FBI issued a warning reminding critical infrastructure partners that the U.S. holiday weekend is ripe for cyber actors. That's backed by data. Security professionals report that 86% are missing a holiday or essential weekend activity with family and friends. Oh, and 70% report being forced to respond to a ransomware attack while intoxicated to get the job done. Almost 3/4 at 72% of small and medium businesses report more cybersecurity concerns than they did a year ago. Much of that concern stems from experience. As more SMBs have sent people to work from home because of COVID-19, just more than half, at 52%, have dealt with a cyber attack in the last year. 10% suffered more than 10 hacks. Those stats come from a new report, The State of Cybersecurity in SMBs in 2021 and 2022, conducted by software developer Devolutions. New rules for banks finalized last week. They must report major cybersecurity incidents within 36 hours. Beginning in May of 2022, financial executives will need to be more forthcoming about computer system failures and interruptions, such as ransomware or denial of service attacks that have the potential to disrupt customers' abilities to access their accounts or impact the more extensive financial system. The UK's National Cybersecurity Centre says it warned the owners of more than 4,000 online stores that their sites were compromised in Magecart attacks to steal customers' payment info. These hacks compromise online stores to harvest and steal the payment and personal information submitted by customers at the checkout page. A scheme to lure insiders into deploying ransomware on employee systems has led to an arrest. Customers of the cybersecurity firm Abnormal Security were sent emails with the subject Partnership Affiliate Offer, requesting that the recipient consider becoming an accomplice in a cyber attack. The motivation? Desperation. The 23-year-old suspect was focused on raising money for a startup. Ransomware is now lucrative for the gangs conducting those attacks. They are repurposing their teams to deliver more victims. This in a new report from Sophos. Sophos said that ransomware is becoming more modular, with different groups specializing in particular elements of an attack. It's also pointed to the linked rise of ransomware as a service, where criminal gangs can purchase access to tools to run those ransomware attacks when they lack the technical ability to create those tools themselves. These so-called ransomware affiliates don't even have to find their potential victims. The ransomware ecosystem is developed so that they can go to other groups who specialize in gaining access to corporate networks and who will sell that backdoor onto them. But what's changed now is that ransomware developers are using this as a service model to optimize their code and get the biggest payouts, offloading to others the tasks of finding victims, installing and executing the malware, and laundering the cryptocurrencies. Why do we care? Friends don't let friends solve security issues drunk. More seriously, tactically, make sure you're ready for the long holiday weekend in the US, as that's a thing and should be factored in. Strategy-wise, understanding the enemy continues to be critical, and the way they are more organized than most think. This is not random. The move to work from home and COVID accelerated a trend, not creating one. Those stats about hacks would have happened, just potentially slower. Don't be distracted there, and instead note how reporting and legal obligations continue to grow. We're slowly moving further and further down the road to being a regulated industry. Cybersecurity for small business has become overwhelming. Unprecedented threats, escalating rhetoric, and limited resources. None of us can battle alone. Lean on your community at Calyptix Security. The Calyptix Community Shield automatically unites small businesses and raises the costs and challenges for cyber criminals by harnessing threat intelligence from our community. If they attack any one of us, everyone gets the benefit with Community Shield. The best part? No added cost. By working together, we will prevail. Learn more at calyptix.com, and when you do, tell them Dave sent you. I covered the changes to Apple's repair programs last week. Here's some additional perspective. According to research by Consumer Intelligence Research Partners, that research suggests that almost all iPhones in use display in usable condition, and most iPhones have battery in usable condition too. 12% of iPhone displays are cracked but usable, and just 6% are unusable and need replacement. 26% of iPhone batteries provided battery life lasting half a day without charging, and 14% need to be set every couple of hours. Battery replacements are likely among the most common repairs, but comparatively few active devices need replacing, either of these parts subject to high wear and tear. The small number of active devices in need of replacement parts, combined with the fact that many users will not be comfortable completing their repairs, indicates that very few iPhone users will take advantage of the self-service repair program. Why do we care? 2 reasons. First, I don't expect this change to open up a massive market. It's not the point of the right to repair. It's about independent shops having options and about consumers having a choice. That leads to competition, which is good for the market. Second, measuring active devices misses out on ones that were decommissioned too early. It's a big hole in the data. Note that this was iPhones in use. The goal of the right to repair is to extend the lifespan of these devices. A tale from Reddit. A former guest on the show, Jason Slagle, reported messages from an Ashley Cooper of ConnectWise, sending out email messages as follow-ups from the recent IT Nation event. As the name is the same as another known figure in the IT community, Jason researched and confirmed with ConnectWise employees that this Ashley Cooper is a conversational AI to manage basic interactions with prospects and partners. A bot. Of note, a fake profile of Ashley had been created on LinkedIn, which is a violation of LinkedIn's terms of service. Amy Lucia, ConnectWise's CMO, posted in the MSP Geek Slack a statement, which I've pulled a segment of. Quote, ConnectWise implemented a virtual sales assistant bot technology, which directs any email respondents to a real person for further conversation in response to partner feedback asking us to respond to email inquiries faster. The creation of a friendly persona and profile to represent the virtual assistant was an experiment many companies explore, and we built ours following the guidance of our third-party vendor. The name chosen was purely coincidental. I've reviewed the email trail on that, but we personally have apologized to the real Ashley Cooper. There is only one Ashley Cooper, and we are grateful for her leadership in this community. It is not uncommon for marketing teams to use various AI and automation-assisted technologies in their communications. End quote. My request for comment went unanswered. Why do we care? There have been several hot takes on this one. Bots are becoming a part of the way service is handled. It's the deception to focus on. Great lengths were taken to make this one seem like a person versus bots like Siri or Google Assistant. And for me, that's the reason to care. ConnectWise isn't wrong to say it's a common practice. The lesson here is about transparency. If you're in the business of building trust, be transparent with your use of the technology. When any deception is exposed, that becomes the story, rather than investments in making customer service better. How about a JEDI update? That program is dead, and the new Joint Warfighting Cloud Capacity, JWCC, program is the replacement. The Department of Defense is soliciting bids, intending to upgrade its technology capabilities with the benefit of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data analysis. In a notice released on Friday, the DoD announced it would solicit bids from Google Cloud and Oracle in addition to JEDI finalists Microsoft and AWS, which are still likely to pick up significant portions of the work. Why do we care? The reboot of this one will be very different. Multi-cloud is much more mainstream, and this is under a different administration. As noted by Protocol, the JEDI cancellation left out IBM as a hyperscale cloud provider, and highlighted that AWS and Microsoft are the 2 players who meet all the criteria. This rebid gives Google and Oracle a chance at some of the work. The DoD is very far behind here. This should have happened, and the contract delay in an environment of ransomware is far less than ideal. The US government is trying to accelerate its response on tech, and that sets far-reaching policy. And it's why we care. Wanted to highlight an opinion piece in the New York Times about remote work and its failure for the young or entry level. It's an excellent story-driven read, focusing on those entry-level people. A key quote, Almost every story we heard from adrift and isolated employees had the same root cause: well-intentioned but frazzled managers working inside systems that adapted to the pandemic by trying to cram office work into the home. Quote, and, quote, a few days in the office won't fix these larger issues, but intentional design could. Truly flexible work may seem breezy and carefree, but it's actually the product of careful planning and clear communication. It requires peering around corners and attempting to identify needs and problems before they fester. It may seem onerous at first, especially when let's just go back to the way before seems like such a clear option. Why do we care? For those in the US, this is an excellent long weekend reading to consider. The disconnect between employers and employees is a space to both excel in and consult in. Addressing this in your own business is a competitive advantage, and teaching others is a high-value service. And best of all, it's not one size fits all, so it's customized. That's why I love this space. High value, high difficulty, complex, and customized. Cha-ching! Thanks for tuning in to This Week in the Business of Tech. Shows come out each week, pulling together the daily podcast. If you like this show, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. The content is here because of supporters like you. If you want access to shows early, answers to your questions, and private interactions, join our Patreon. It's pay what you want. You decide what the content is worth. Join at patreon.com/MSPradio. Patreons also get access to the written versions of every story as they come out. If you want the stories right away, you can get them on the daily podcast. Find the Business of Tech on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your shows. Subscribe links are at businessof.tech. Talk to you again next week.